Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at something that I bet most of us haven't thought about since, well, maybe forever.
Oh.
Gerunds and infinitives.
Ooh.
I know it sounds like we're about to go full-on grammar nerd here,
Right.
but trust me, this is going to be way more interesting than diagramming sentences.
Oh.
We're going to be looking at these little grammatical structures through a really cool lens.
Okay.
A resource for folks learning English as a second language.
Mm.
And it's amazing how looking at something familiar from a new perspective can make it suddenly fresh and exciting again.
Absolutely. And to make things even more engaging, we've got these two stories that we're going to analyze. Amy finds a new job and Mary visits her parents.
Okay.
They might seem simple on the surface, but
Right.
you'll be surprised by the hidden grammatical gems we can uncover. I think you'll find it fascinating how much these seemingly small details impact the story's emotional depth.
Okay, so let's dive right in. Amy's story is first. She works at this restaurant called La Nut, and she absolutely loves her job, except for the late nights.
Yeah.
Talk about a classic dilemma, right? Loving what you do, but not loving the hours.
It's a struggle many of us can relate to, for sure. What's intriguing is how the story uses gerunds to really highlight Amy's feelings about her work.
Okay.
For example, it says she enjoys meeting new people and talking to the customers. Notice it doesn't just say she likes meeting people. Using gerunds like enjoying and talking creates a sense of active engagement and personal satisfaction, giving us a deeper understanding of Amy's connection to her work.
It's like those ending words paint a much more vivid picture, right? We can practically feel her enthusiasm. And then, of course, on the flip side, we also get hates staying up late and dislikes feeling tired. Again, those gerunds pack an emotional punch,
Yeah.
making us empathize with her predicament.
Exactly. It's not just about stating facts, it's about conveying the emotional weight of those facts.
Okay, so Amy is grappling with this late-night dilemma, and then there's this part where it says she considered working in a clothing store. Now, we're talking gerunds, but this working thing seems a little different, right? It makes me think about infinitives. Am I on the right track?
You are. This is a perfect example of how infinitives often follow verbs like consider, decide, want.
Okay.
Basically, verbs that involve thinking about or planning for the future to work is our infinitive here, and it's expressing the potential action Amy is contemplating.
So while gerunds often focus on actions or feelings in the present, infinitives are more about possibilities and intentions.
Precisely. They add those shades of nuance to our understanding of what's happening in the story and what might happen next. Imagine if the sentence said, she decided to work in a clothing store.
Right.
That decided, paired with the infinitive to work, suggests a more definitive shift in Amy's mindset, doesn't it?
It totally does.
Yeah.
It goes from simply thinking about it to actively planning for a change.
Yeah.
That's so subtle yet powerful.
Exactly. It's like the author is giving us a glimpse into Amy's decision-making process just by choosing one grammatical structure over another.
Okay, I am officially fascinated by the power of infinitives now. Let's switch gears to Mary's story.
Right.
She's heading home to visit her parents, and there's this really sweet detail about how much she misses sleeping in and waking up to a home-cooked breakfast. Who doesn't love that?
It's such a heartwarming image, and it speaks to that sense of comfort and belonging we often associate with family.
It totally does. And I'm noticing more infinitives popping up here. The story says Mary loves to spend time with her parents, and she looks forward to relaxing at home. What's interesting is that these infinitives aren't just about actions. They're conveying a sense of anticipation and purpose behind Mary's visit.
You're spot on. To spend time and to relax, highlight her motivations, and paint a picture of what she hopes to experience during her time with her family.
So it's not just that she wants to visit. It's that she's yearning for those specific moments of connection and tranquility.
Precisely. And it goes beyond simply stating her intentions. It gives us a deeper understanding of what those visits mean to her on an emotional level.
Okay, this is giving me a whole new appreciation for how much thought goes into crafting a story, even a seemingly simple one like this.
Absolutely. Every word choice, every grammatical structure contributes to the overall impact of the narrative.
Now, there's one more part of Mary's story I want to touch on. It says, Mary dislikes waiting. That's a gerund, right? Playing the role of the subject of the sentence.
Yep.
But then just a little later we get, she prefers to keep busy. Okay, so now we've got an infinitive, to keep busy, acting as the object of the verb prefers. My mind is blown.
It's amazing, isn't it? These seemingly simple structures have so much flexibility and nuance. What stands out to you about how these different grammatical choices impact our understanding of Mary?
It's like by contrasting dislikes waiting with prefers to keep busy,
Yeah.
the author's not just telling us about Mary's actions, but revealing a deeper aspect of her personality. She's not someone who sits around passively. She's actively seeking engagement. That little detail speaks volumes, don't you think?
You're absolutely right. And that's the power of these grammatical structures. They help us go beyond simply describing actions. They allow us to delve into a character's motivations, preferences, and even their core values.
Wow, I'm starting to see gerunds and infinitives everywhere now. It's like they're these hidden codes that unlock deeper layers of meaning.
Hmm.
I can't wait to see what other insights we uncover as we continue our deep dive.
Me too.
But we're going to have to pay that for next time.
Okay.
So join us again for part 2 of our deep dive into the fascinating world of gerunds and infinitives.
I'll be here. Yeah, it really is remarkable how these subtle grammatical choices shape our understanding of the characters and the story as a whole.
Right. It's like there are these little keys that unlock hidden depths. But, it makes me wonder, does this apply to real-life conversations too? Like, do we use gerunds and infinitives in our everyday language without even realizing it?
All the time. Yeah, think about it. Every time you hear someone say, I love hiking or I want to travel the world,
Right.
they're using these structures to express themselves. They're woven into the very fabric of how we communicate.
Wow, you're right. I never really thought about it that way before. So these aren't just some obscure grammar rules. They're actually tools we use constantly to share our thoughts and feelings.
Exactly. And they add so much nuance to what we're trying to say.
Okay.
For example, saying, I like to cook is different from saying, I enjoy cooking, even though they seem to convey a similar idea.
Oh, I see what you mean. I like to cook. Feels more general, like a statement of fact.
Right.
But I enjoy cooking emphasizes the experience, the pleasure you get from the activity itself. It's subtle, but it makes a big difference.
Precisely. And being aware of these nuances can make you a more attentive listener and a more precise communicator. You start to pick up on the subtle ways people use language to reveal their thoughts and emotions.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
It's like we're learning to decode a secret language within our own language. Okay, so for someone listening who might be thinking, this is all very interesting, but I'm never going to remember all these grammar terms, what would you say to them?
I'd say don't worry about the technical terms at all.
Yeah.
The most important thing is to simply be aware of how these structures are used in the language you encounter every day.
Yeah.
Pay attention to how they shape meaning and add nuance to communication.
So it's more about noticing patterns and developing an ear for the subtle ways language works than memorizing rules.
Absolutely. And you can do that by reading, listening to podcasts, having conversations, basically by immersing yourself in language. The more you expose yourself to it, the more these grammatical structures will become second nature to you.
It's like anything else, right? The more you practice, the more intuitive it becomes.
Exactly. And the more comfortable you become with them, the more effectively you'll be able to use them in your own communication. It's like having a wider range of colors to paint with, so to speak.
I love that analogy. It's like we're expanding our expressive palette. That has been so eye-opening. I feel like I'm seeing gerunds and infinitives in a whole new light. They're not just these dry, abstract grammar rules. They're actually tools we can use to express ourselves more clearly and creatively.
I'm so glad to hear that. I think the beauty of these structures is that they're accessible to everyone, regardless of their level of grammatical expertise. It's about developing a deeper appreciation for the artistry of language.
Totally. So as we wrap up our deep dive, what's one key takeaway you would want our listeners to walk away with?
I'd say pay attention to how gerunds and infinitives are used in the language you encounter every day. You might be surprised by how much they impact the meaning and flow of communication. It's like discovering hidden treasures in plain sight.
That's such a great way to put it. It's like a little treasure hunt for these grammatical gems.
Yeah.
And the more you find, the more you'll appreciate the richness and complexity of language.
Precisely. And that appreciation, that awareness will make you a more effective communicator and a more engaged participant in the world of language.
Well said. And to our listeners, we hope this deep dive has inspired you to listen a little more closely to the language around you. You might be amazed by what you discover. Until next time, happy exploring.
It's true. It really is like we're uncovering these hidden layers of meaning that we'd never even noticed before.
It is, and it makes you realize just how much thought goes into crafting language, whether it's written or spoken.
Right. Like even in those simple stories about Amy and Mary.
Yeah.
We saw how gerunds and infinitives weren't just there for grammar, they actually added depth and emotion to the characters.
Absolutely.
Right.
The author's choice to use a gerund like enjoying when describing Amy's work really created a sense of warmth and positivity. It subtly emphasized the personal fulfillment she found in her job despite the challenges.
And on the flip side with Mary, those infinitives like to spend time and to relax gave her story that sense of longing and anticipation, like she was really looking forward to those moments.
Exactly. It highlighted the deeper meaning behind her visits home and made her connection with her family even more resonant. It's amazing how these tiny grammatical elements can have such a big impact on the overall feel of a story.
It is. It's like each gerund and infinitive is a brushstroke in a painting. They all contribute to the overall emotional landscape.
It's like the author is a composer carefully selecting each note to create a specific harmony and evoke a particular feeling in the reader.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And it reminds us that language is so much more than just a means of conveying information. It's a tool for creating art, for stirring emotions, for forging connections.
Well said. And I think that's a perfect note to end on. We've successfully transformed gerunds and infinitives from grammar villains to grammar heroes today.
Indeed, we have. They're not just rules to be memorized, but rather expressive tools to be embraced and explored.
And to our listeners, we hope this deep dive has sparked a newfound curiosity in you. Go forth and explore the language around you. You never know what hidden gems you might uncover. Until next time, happy exploring.